Hello everyone. I am showing you today a super easy dessert or just a treat, a snack, a sweet treat. And just to kind of offer that desserts don't have to be one, difficult, two, they don't have to take a lot of time, three, they can be very good for you, right? So a sweet treat can be something that, of course, we can all enjoy. And today, this one is a fresh raspberry pudding. But the beauty of this dessert is that it doesn't even use fresh raspberries. You don't have to have fresh raspberries on hand. So I'm going to try and make this video nice and quick for you, but please chime in. Tell me where you're from, what you're doing today. Do you like making puddings? Do you love desserts? What's your favorite thing to make? What's your favorite easy dessert to make? I am going to get started, and it's funny, every time I do a video with you guys, I have to make sure my cupboards are closed. I can't tell you how often, like, I cook and I'm always pulling things out of the cupboards. My cupboard doors are almost always open in the kitchen. Reminds me of that movie with Julia Roberts. Oh, guys, remind me what it was. Oh, Sleeping with the Enemy, right? He always had to have everything totally organized in the cupboards, and she like pulled them all open. I think that's what it was. Anyhow, that's me. My cupboards are always open when I'm cooking. So whenever I get on video, I have to I look and I'm like, okay. All right, so let's get started with the recipe. Hi from Belgium. How awesome. Hi, Jessica. That's so cool. Thank you for commenting and letting me know where you're from. That's so fun to have people viewing from, all parts of the world. Okay, so getting started with the recipe. So I'm using frozen raspberries, and if you have fresh raspberries, of course you can use them. I find fresh raspberries are, they're so seasonal, and I always buy organic berries. I don't buy all organic fruits. I buy the ones that are more pesticide laden, like berries and, apples and pears and greens and that kind of thing. So raspberries I always buy organic, and you can get a good price when they're frozen, right? So I have some frozen organic berries, and we have a cup of those. Oh, the recipe I should share with you. And you could totally make this with blueberries or strawberries. I think strawberries would be especially nice. The recipe is in the description. I thought this recipe was in Plant Powered Families, but then I remembered that it was the ebook that we sent out, like the free ebook for people who pre-ordered. So the recipe is on my site, and that link is there. So we have fresh raspberries, and then I'm using a ripe banana. Now, here's the thing. You could use frozen ripe banana, like overripe banana that you've frozen, sliced and frozen, if you have a really powerful blender. If you don't, like if you have a standard blender, then it's better to use just a ripe banana at room temp, because the blender will have a hard time getting it going. But, with a Rambo blender, like a Blendtec, yeah, you can totally use a frozen. So the banana is going to add some texture, and it's also going to add some, what am I doing? Showing you just me jabbering on. Got to show you the ingredients. So we have the banana, and I'm just slicing it. So when I say a cup of banana, I just take banana, slice it up a bit, boom, in there. This one's not as ripe as I'd like it to be. There's a little bit of freckles. I'd like it maybe just a tiny bit more freckles. But I do like my bananas pretty freckly. You green banana lovers, you chime in out there. That's about what I'm going to add, just because they're not as ripe as I'd like. I can always add a little bit more raspberries instead. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw in another tiny amount of raspberries. And then, so we add a little bit of chia seeds. So this is not a chia pudding per se, but we're adding just a couple of teaspoons to thicken it. And I'm using white chia. So there's white chia. And I do notice that in stores, it's the dark chia seeds that are more available, especially the ground. I don't know why that is. It's really hard to find white ground chia, which is my preference for puddings because it's lighter in color, and it's just, if you're making something, and then it's kind of like when you make a green smoothie and add berries and it makes it look all muddy. So we're adding a couple of teaspoons of that. And if you have ground, then go ahead and use ground because it's not a huge amount. So there's not too much discrepancy between the ground and the whole. And then the recipe calls for raw almond butter. Now, two things. If you want to keep this a lower fat recipe, absolutely reduce the almond butter or even leave it out, right? It's totally up to you. Like you can try it without and then taste it and then maybe add a little bit. Today though, I'm adding raw cashew butter. So this is, and I have no affiliation with this brand or the chia seed brand that I just showed you. I'm just showing you a raw cashew butter. So normally when you buy cashew butter, most brands are roasted. And it's just like when you buy roasted cashews, they're a little bit darker in color. They're not creamy colored. And so the nut butter is a little darker, but it also has a roasted flavor. So this is a raw cashew butter. And why I like using this is not just for the color, but also because it has a really buttery, creamy flavor. It doesn't have that toasty nut flavor. And it's a really nice option to make things creamy without a lot of like nutty background flavor. And kind of like using raw cashews to make creams and that kind of thing. Hi, Leah, and hi, Christine. So I'm using, I think my recipe calls for 1 to 1.5 tablespoons. And I'm just going to use, well, I don't really need to measure it. I know that's about a tablespoon. I'm just going to use about a tablespoon today. So I'm going to get that on the edge of the knife and get that in. I think Charlotte's getting ready to go to work. She may want to have some of this before she goes today. She loves raspberries. Okay, and a pinch of salt. Now, when I say pinch of salt, it's literally just like get a little bit between your fingers, just a little, and add it in there. And the reason we do that is I'm going to bring the blender closer. There we go. Do I have the cord length? I need to move my camera a little bit. Just to heighten the flavors. So a pinch of salt in desserts will just kind of like lift the flavors and lift the sweetness. So not much, right? Just a tiny bit. And then what do we have left here? Oh, cardamom. So ground cardamom is, you can kind of think of it like a sweet spice, like cinnamon. And I didn't want to add cinnamon to the recipe here because I find it kind of like, I don't know, a stronger can be overpowering in this kind of recipe. You could use it, or you could completely omit it altogether, the spices. But cardamom has this like sweet, almost like flowery essence. It's beautiful, and it's used in savory recipes as well as sweet recipes. You'll see it in Indian dishes. It just has this really interesting flavor profile. So I am going to grab cardamom, and we're just using like a 1/4 teaspoon. I just love smelling it because it smells so good. In fact, I'm just going to use maybe an 1/8 teaspoon today because I know that I like it. The kids sometimes, they don't want as much of that flavor. I'm just adding, it'd almost be like a few pinches. And then a little bit of sweetener. Now, again, sweetener's optional, right? People are like, can I omit the sweetener? Of course, if you don't want the sweetener in it, don't use it. Blend it, see how it tastes, and then you can always adjust if you want. I don't want to use dates in here because I find they're just kind of like thick sometimes and heavy in recipes. So I like a little bit of maple syrup. You could also use coconut nectar. You could use date syrup. It's 1 to 2 tablespoons, so it's not much, right? People get really, really upset about sweeteners, and I get it, but like a tiny amount of pure maple syrup is nice here. If you don't want to use it, omit it. I'm just going to use a tablespoon today and see how that goes. And that's it. So you can see there's no liquid in the recipe other than the maple syrup. So that's why I'm not using all frozen elements. Again, this blender could take it, but if you have like a standard blender, it might be a bit hard on the blender. If you're blending and you find you need a little bit of liquid, just add a splash of milk, like maybe a tablespoon of milk. So we are going to blend this. I sure talk a lot through these demos, don't I? But I guess that's the idea. Just want to share all the tidbits with you. And Christine's saying cardamom is her favorite. See, it's such a nice spice, right? Leah's asking if it's better to use store-bought cashew butter or make your own. You could totally make your own. I tend to have raw cashew butter on hand for recipes because I really like it. And I like the flavor myself just to enjoy it. So, but yes, you can absolutely make your own. Almost there. I'm just going to scrape it down so it's not so noisy, but it would totally pick it up and keep blending. Okay, one more little blitz. There we are. Now look at that. Look at that color. Isn't that gorgeous, right? Look at how beautiful that color is. I'm going to put some in a bowl. I'm actually going to just taste it and see if it does need a little more sweetener. Because the thing is with raspberries and other berries, like sometimes they're sweeter, right? Especially strawberries. If you're making this with strawberries and they're summer seasonal berries, oh my gosh, you will not need sweetener. But in the winter and you're buying like frozen berries or strawberries in the store and they're not seasonal, they're not like wild berries, they're not as sweet. So really good. Oh, it's really good. I don't think I'm going to add any more sweetener. I'm just going to drip out the left small amount that's in the spoon and give it one more tiny blitz. It's got a little tartness, which is lovely. And if you love raspberries, you're going to just adore this recipe. So you can, the texture of the raspberries is in there, that little bit of seediness, but, I'm not fussy about that kind of thing. I think cooking does not need to be that fussy where you have to strain it or anything like that. So I'm going to put some in a bowl. Now, the thing is with this recipe, the chia will thicken it. So if you put it in the fridge, it's going to get a little bit thicker. I have a tiny amount of fresh raspberries, look like 3, because I bought some yesterday and they were gobbled up by the raspberry savages in the house. And I have a few strawberries, and I'm just popping a couple of blueberries on this. And I think Charlotte's going to want to eat this when she comes down. So check that out. Isn't that nice? Isn't that pretty? Look. And so this would serve, I think for dessert, you probably could get 3 servings. As a snack, maybe 2. I mean, someone might want to eat all of that, right? And the other thing is, because the banana is ripe, you know how banana will, taste off after a couple of days. So if you blend it. So this pudding, I think, is best within a couple of days. I wouldn't probably leave it in the fridge for more than 2 to 3 days. It's really nice. It is fresh raspberry pudding, right? So enjoy it. Nice, hey? What do you think? So the recipe's there. I hope you make it. You see how easy it is to make. And then play with some flavor elements in there. If you want to add a tiny amount of almond extract, that would be really good. Oh, I'm just thinking you could use cherries instead of the raspberries and add a little bit of almond extract, because almond extract has that cherry essence, that's that flavor. So a tiny amount of that would be good. Not too much. I wouldn't use more than a 1/4 teaspoon, just a hint. That would be so good. Or a little bit of vanilla powder in this would also be good. And I have linked to this before in my recipes. This is the brand I tend to buy. Again, no affiliation, guys. And it's the pure vanilla bean ground. So look at that. I'm already at almost 15 minutes. I was going to try to do this in under 10 minutes. There we are. Hope you enjoy it, guys. You can continue to comment. I'll come back in to the comments after and answer any questions you have. So enjoy the pudding. Play with some flavor combinations. Have a lovely day. Blessings to you all. Bye-bye.